Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel, where of course we're giving you all the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. We are back again today with another match preview video. As I said before Friday's game, of course the fixtures are coming thick and fast, which means plenty of match previews coming up on the channel. So yeah, today Nottingham Forest, we're facing them away from home at I think it's an 8 o'clock kickoff in the EFL Championship on Easter Monday. So yeah, it's a big game for Albion and a big game for Nottingham Forest themselves. We'll talk about that in a little bit, about what they've got to aim for this season. But it's going to be a big game, and yeah, an interesting one to say the least, as to which Albion we might get in this particular fixture. But before we crack on with this match preview, make sure you subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel if you are new. That would be fantastic. There's plenty of content coming up over the next few weeks, and especially as the season closes, we're hoping to have some more ex-player interviews coming on. Obviously different types of videos, and obviously it's always nice to just experiment during that sort of pre-season stage whilst there isn't very much football going on. So make sure you subscribe for that. Comment your score prediction below, and also your thoughts ahead of the game. If you've got any predicted lineups that you want to share, of course I'll be doing mine, but if you want to share yours, then make sure you do in the comment section below. But yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. It's West Bromwich Albion versus Nottingham Forest. You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. Let's get started with the opposition, Nottingham Forest. They are 5th in the EFL Championship as it stands, and yeah, I think form-wise we're looking at probably the best side in the league, if I'm allowed to say that. Of course, yeah, they've been absolutely fantastic over the past, I'd say, couple of months or so, but throughout the season since Steve Cooper took over, they have looked absolutely fantastic. Lost to Luton Town last time out, 1-0. I think a controversial penalty to say the least, but they are looking particularly fantastic in terms of their form and their sort of rise up the league table. We'll chat a little bit more about that, and I've got a little treat for you guys to go read as well, which would be nice. But they've just looked in fantastic form recently, and they look unstoppable until Luton came and turned them over and gave them a solid win, I'd say. Obviously, the penalty was particularly controversial, but they did root in and show Nottingham Forest a lot of the resilience that I think Forest has shown through large parts of the season. They're managed by Steve Cooper, of course, a guy that maybe was in a little bit of contention for Albion's manager job in the summer. Oh, how we would have liked to have had him instead of what turned out to be Ishmael's reign of terror. They were 24th in the league, bottom of the table, when Steve Cooper took over from Chris Hughton back in September of last year. But they're now fighting, of course, for automatic promotion. He's completely transformed them into, with little additions, I'll say, as well. I think they've only brought in a couple of guys on loan since he joined the club, but ultimately has, he's had very little influence in terms of additions this season. But yeah, if you want to go and read, I mean, it's a little plug for myself. I'll leave a link to it in the description. If you want to go and read like a bit of an analysis piece on Nottingham Forest, I do write for a site called Breaking the Lines, where I write as sort of an analyst writer for them. And yeah, if you want to go and read that, there's a little piece about Nottingham Forest and their transformation under Steve Cooper that I put out last week. So I'll leave a little link to that in the description. No pressure to go and watch that, but yeah, it'd be nice if you did. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out if you have a little bit of time to have a little read and want to know more about Monday's opposition. Make sure you go and do that. But they've got a key man, and it's fair to say that is Brennan Johnson. He's the top scorer in the Nottingham Forest ranks with 14 goals, closely followed, to be fair, by Lewis Grabban, but just behind on 12 goals. Top assists is Brennan Johnson as well, with 8 assists. So yeah, he's certainly a key man, and picking the ball up and driving from those wide areas is one of his greatest strengths. And you know, you've got, of course, some particularly talented players as well as him, but he is really shining in this Nottingham Forest scene. And you can see that maybe if they don't get promoted this season, that, you know, aside, I think maybe Brentford have been looking at him in particular. So yeah, you can certainly see him making that step up into the Premier League if Nottingham Forest don't do that themselves this season. But yeah, they've looked really good, of course, and Brennan Johnson in particular shining under Steve Cooper in particular, because I think he only managed a couple of goal contributions whilst Chris Hughton was at the helm. So yeah, Steve Cooper definitely transforming Brennan Johnson into that player. 2 Welshmen, I think, combining for that. So yeah, the stats, how are they looking in terms of stats? Second goals for goals conceded per match in the league, 0.9 per game, which is a really, really good defensive record. And I think Steve Cooper, he likes to have this kind of transition coaches in his ranks where they sort of teach to not be caught on the break and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely provided a lot of help for that. Third for goals per match with 1.5 per game. So they're scoring and they're not conceding very much. It just makes for a really good side. They don't really stick out in terms of possession, pressing or anything. They just do the basics quite well. I think they squeeze in those tight areas when they need to. They know they're intelligent with kind of their pressing. They don't do it constantly like I think Ishmael tried to get us to do, but they squeeze in those right areas. And yeah, it's been promotion form since Steve Cooper took over. So yeah, predicted 11 for Nottingham Forest. What can we expect from Steve Cooper's side? Yeah, Bryce Samba in goal. Yeah, he's probably not as bad as the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper we faced when we came down from the Premier League when we had Slaven Bilic in charge in that first game of the season with Muric in goal, who let in a couple of howlers to say the least. They got Joe Worrell at right centre back in a 3 at the back formation. He's been very influential for them this season, providing good cover in that right defensive area. Their captain as well, Tobias Figueiredo. Scott McKenna at left centre back. You got Jack Cole back in the wing back position. He's filled in some gaps for them this season. Jed Spence, of course, a big name at right wing back, done very well on loan from Middlesbrough. Of course, Neil Warnock sent in there to kind of sort himself out. So, yeah, he's been particularly fantastic since he joined Nottingham Forest. Ryan Yates and James Garner, a very good functional midfield pair in that double pivot role, arriving late onto the scene to score some goals. So, yeah, that's very good for them. Brendan Johnson in the attacking midfield position with Lewis Grabban and Keenan Davis up front. Yeah, it's been a difficult season to say the least, and yeah, Blackpool was a little bit of a high, I suppose. A 93rd minute winner was always nice to get. A win is a win, after all. Let's remember that, and I had to remind myself that towards the end of that game and towards as I was walking away from the ground, thinking that we just snatched 3 points there. But it was a largely poor performance against Blackpool. Let's be fair. I'm not sure what was going on in that game. It was very, very lackadaisical from Albion, very, very slowly paced, and I wasn't a fan of the performance at all. I know some will be sort of clouded by the fact that we got the 3 points, and as I said, that is the main thing, and that's really good, and I like that we dug in and have scored late quite a lot this season, actually, to be fair. Well, since Bruce took over and over these sort of past 7 or 8 games, maybe. I think we've looked very good in these late stages of the game. Of course, Huddersfield scoring late, Bristol scoring late, this game scoring late as well. So, yeah, I can kind of see that there's a little bit of fight in the squad left. I'm not sure what Bruce was playing at in that game with the substitutions. I think that really baffled me. At one point, we had Malumbi, Phillips, and Callum Robinson in centre midfield at one point, which I think was just ridiculous. He was really experimenting, and I think that made me feel like it was a bit of a pre-season friendly with that kind of sort of moving players around. It was a case of shuffling the pack to a real extreme for me. Not with a weird formation or anything. He stuck with the 3-5-2, but that was what Ishmael kind of did, where he just cobbled people like Adam Reach into centre-back, Livermore into centre-backs for games when he needed to. But he didn't need to today because he had the numbers on his side. The only player missing in that midfield department was Alex Mower, and that's why I suppose we had those players in there. But I just couldn't get my head around what was going on with that kind of experimentation. But yeah, that confused me. Callum Robinson backing out of that challenge in front of the Birmingham Road end was awful. And let's not pretend that's an isolated incident from himself. There are plenty of challenges that he does back out from, but that just happened to be right in front of the home fans. Big mistake from him. And yeah, got a lot of stick from the fans after that. The stats went like this. Dominated possession really with 52%. 1.84 XG compared to Blackpool's 0.95. Less long balls than Stoke, which I was surprised about because I thought that we did go long quite a lot against Stoke, but not enough really for Andy Carroll to get his head on. But here's my predicted lineup for this game. In goal, David Button. Thought he did a reasonable job against Blackpool. Keep trying him out. Keep giving him the go. And then I'd like to see Alex Palmer have a couple of games at the end of the season too. Shemi Ajayi at centre-back. Dara O'Shea as well. Thought he was decent in that middle. They gave away a few silly fouls, but ultimately Gary Medine's a very good hold-up target man, and he looked pretty decent. Matt Clark left centre-back. Darnell Furlong right wing-back. Adam Reach was decent. I thought his crossing was wayward a little bit, but the one he crossed in for Andy Carroll's goal was good. And I thought his effort down that left wing back side, and his delivery was good at times. So I'm happy to see him stay another day and keep himself in that starting 11. Jake Livermore in midfield. I'd like Malumbi in there with him. Thought Malumbi again. I do think he's a steal at £900,000. I do think that's a good deal. Taylor Gardner-Hickman in centre midfield as well. I'd like to see him come back into the side. Not sure why he ever ended up out of it. Karlan Grant and Andy Carroll up front together as well, I think, is probably the best way to go. Prediction for this one, I'll go for 2-2. I think it's going to be an interesting game and a good Monday night fixture. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But that's the end of this match preview for West Bromwich Albion versus Nottingham Forest. Leave your comments on how you think this game's going to go down below. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.